First Watch with Sheriff Mark Daniels on KWCD Bisbee Sierra Vista. Hosted by Public Information Officers Carol Kappas and Grady Butler. First Watch is brought to you by Sulphur Springs Valley Electric Cooperative.
And welcome to your Friday. I'm Grady Butler, and Carol Kappas is missing today, but Sheriff Mark Daniels is here. Good morning.
Good morning, everyone. And that empty seat to our left is kind of like she's the balance of our voices there, Grady.
I know it's just not the same when she's not here.
It's not, but we wish her well today as she's got the day off. So it'll be Grady and I today running it.
Well, let's start with some sports. Let's talk about ALA soccer.
ALA soccer. So the girls' varsity inaugural game is next Tuesday at 4:30. So that's the girls' varsity ALA game next Tuesday at Keith Hampton Field at 4:30 in the afternoon. So that's coming up Tuesday, 4:30. ALA taking on a team from Phoenix. I don't even know who we're playing. But,
okay.
Some team out of Phoenix is coming down. But so if you like soccer, you want to see the ALA's first game for girls' varsity soccer. And I'm telling you, they're young, but they're. We'll see how they do. We're kind of shy on some numbers and stuff, but that core girls team they'll be good. They'll be really good.
And the community doesn't know doesn't know that you coach those things.
Yeah, I coach the girls and boys varsity soccer for ALA, and one of my I call it therapy. Whenever you can work with young people, it just refreshes the mind. It really does. And so these kids have worked hard over our last month here as we get ready, and so we'll see how they do. But also a shout out to Buena girls varsity. They won their first round of the playoffs. Now they're moving to the quarterfinals. They won 1-0. I don't think it was their best game, but either way, they won it. But now they play, I want to say, is it tomorrow night or today? Well, I think it's tomorrow. It's tomorrow, Saturday. Verify this, folks, if you're listening and you're interested going. But they're playing at Keith Hampton Field. I think it's tomorrow. I think they open up at 10:30. The field to do. But sometime tomorrow, I'll take a look at the time. I don't have it. I just saw it. Briefly before I got on the show here, but kudos to Buena girls varsity soccer too. We wish them well tomorrow.
Well, we want to thank Sulphur Springs Valley Electric Cooperative for sponsoring this show for another year, and they wanted us to talk about some drones. It's the second year that Sulphur Springs Valley Electric Cooperative is working with a drone contractor to inspect high voltage power lines and infrastructure all around the county. So you may see some drones in the air.
Yeah, and these are good drones.
Yes.
These are not bad drones, and there are bad drones out there, but these are good drones from SSVC as they inspect their lines, inspect their equipment up there. And so, yeah, and you'll see the trucks. You'll see activity by SSVC. Their trucks, I think 99% are marked out, so you're going to see that. But if you have any questions, give us a call, local law enforcement. But these are good drones from SSVC working on their equipment.
And it starts on February 24th, and it should be completed by the end of March. So we just want everybody to know that. And, again, thank you to SSVEC. And speaking of drones, there is a bill that's moving forward.
There is a bill, and I know my team's been up there. We've been in discussion. They're trying to push a bill right now that the drones that the criminal cartels are bringing across the border with drugs, you've heard about the explosive devices. I mean, for every bad reason, the cartels are using drones too. And so we want to have the ability, kind of like you saw at the Super Bowl, Grady, where they can take drones down that come over that present a danger to the event. Same thing here. Why would we not have it here in Arizona for a law enforcement tool, for local law enforcement, state law enforcement to address that? So we're huge in support of that. It goes back as another tool in the tool chest to address the criminal cartels that obviously are not our best friend out there, as we all know.
And the military is now here, and you've done some meetings with the military about them being on the border.
Yeah, and that started over a month ago. And I just want to give a little back historical on this, 'cause I think it's very productive, very beneficial to Cochise County, whether you're in Tombstone, Douglas, Sierra Vista, wherever you may be, is the fact that about a month ago, 3 weeks, a month ago, I got a call that the general wanted to come out and meet with my team, and from back east, from Fort Drum. And so I was in D.C., couldn't make it, and my team brought the red carpet. I asked them, hey, let's make sure we take care of them. And they were doing site evaluations. Where is the best place to set the southwest border, for the southwest border, a DOD hub? You know, where do we want to go? I know Davis-Monthan, Tucson was one of the locations. Fort Bliss out of Texas had a bunch of places. And so a couple days after they left, we got, let me share that, a text saying that we were selected. And they look forward to working with us. And since that time, we have been engaged with the military. They had their ceremony this week where they actually planted their flag and, you know, They took over the OT MAC up on Fort Chuka, and it's amazing what they're doing. But they're here in full force to help law enforcement, state, local, and federal, and do their part to secure this border. And I'm a big proponent of that. I mean, we go around the world protecting countries and protecting globally. We need to protect the homeland. So I just want to echo that. If you haven't heard me say that, I'm very proud of that. So we're doing a lot of things with them. I mean, there's some op meetings coming up here next week with them again. And we'll continue this as we, again, partner with our military. I'm a big fan. Two things that are my heroes, military and educators. I just think that they serve so much a purpose. And then, of course, our law enforcement people, of course. So, but thanks to our military for being here. I got to meet some of the generals from all over that are run from NORTHCOM, all these places that are just, way above me. But the bottom line is this: it was a nice welcome. The general gave very nice compliments to the sheriff's office and my team and I. But that's a partnership that for the next 4 years, I look forward to it. It's going to be 4 years.
And the partnerships that we have, you've always said, state, local, federal, are great. But sometimes the rules are different in a case of a pursuit last night.
They're very different. And this is when you share authorities, share responsibilities. So I was coming back from an event last night about 8, 9 o'clock, and we had a pursuit coming into the county from Santa Cruz County. So this pursuit had lasted quite some time. There was 2 vehicles, suspected of smuggling. The one got away, last I heard, and but the other one, they took off from Border Patrol, end up spiking it. 2 tires were down. So think about the danger. You got a vehicle fleeing, which is something we've become very accustomed to here, as we all know. And so it has 2 inflated tires and excuse me, and the other 2 on rims, being chased. So we set up some more spikes. We had a road blocked at 82 and 90 junction last night, again 10 o'clock at night, and people were, hey, why can't I go through? Because we have a pursuit. We don't want to get you hurt. And so, but the vehicle, I think, saw the lights, saw the gauntlet, however you want to look at it, and turned off on a dirt road. We rerouted down a dirt road, cut off areas of 90 so it couldn't get back on the highway there. Ended up getting the vehicle. They got the driver, the female, out of Phoenix, and we got to the back doors were open, on and on, but couldn't get anybody else. Let's just put it that way. So Border Patrol was limited what they could do. And there's a bill going through about pursuits and be able to do all this by the federal government, Border Patrol. To me, it's a common sense law. We got to have that. I mean, so they were limited what they can do. So we ended up taking the enforcement, the action. We arrested the driver. I mean, think about it. I made a comment last night. I mean, you run from law enforcement and cause all this reckless and endangerment to the public, to the community, and then you're going to walk away? No. We're going to make sure justice is served. It was Cochise County. It's the West. And so we told the vehicle, and she went to jail for some serious charges last night. But, again, I keep saying, I'm going to continue to say it. We're going to enforce the rule of law. People that endanger others, we will address it.
And the roads can be a dangerous place with pursuits, but they can also be a dangerous place just pulling into a rest stop.
Yeah, I'm sure you're hearing about it when it comes to what's going on up in these rest stops on I-10 to some of the truck stops. We've had some pretty critical events, and I'll just share this one with you if you haven't heard it. We had a truck driver last Saturday night around 10 o'clock pull into the rest area over by the New Mexico state line. And within a few minutes of pulling over, we got his times and stuff, and when he pulled in there, a few minutes later, he calls 911 to report an assault. And this was an in-progress assault. The phone went disconnected. He called back again, and I won't go into details, but it wasn't a good. The assault was in progress with him, and kudos to our dispatchers. I mean, this is some of the things they get to hear, and it's never good. Well, when my deputies got on scene and some others, pretty much he was in critical condition. So right now he's got life-threatening injuries. He's not good. I know they're waiting for the family to come in to be there at the hospital in Tucson. But long story short is we're working our tails off to figure out what happened here. These are tough crimes because they're transient crimes, because you have an interstate that flows. Thousands of people come through Cochise County. They have no other interest but to use our interstate. So we've been looking at a bunch of things. We're doing search warrants this week. We're going to continue pushing, but if I would say this to you, part of my safety message, when you pull in these rest areas, you're pulling these truck stops, where you're pulling, just be vigilant. I mean, there are those, and we've had a couple other incidents here where people are pulling in truck stops and there's scams going on. Hey, I'm giving out free money, and then they assault you, to just assaults. So just be very, very careful. There's evil that prey, and we just want to keep you all safe.
And you mentioned CCOM. Why don't you remind everybody what CCOM is, and then I know you have a shout-out as well.
Yeah, CCOM's our Southeastern Arizona Communication Center. It's a regional communication center that streamlines 911 calls, streamlines dispatching for police, fire, and EMS, and it's come so far. And right now, we had our annual meeting with our director yesterday, and Tammy Jo Wilkins. She's done an amazing job, along with the staff and leadership over there, to build upon what they have and solidify the professional standards and accountability within CCOM. And so thank you to Tammy Jo and your leadership, Melissa, everybody over there is just doing an amazing job. They keep us safe via that radio. I mean, when you first call 911 for a crisis, that's who you're speaking with. And but just want to give them all a shout, all the men and women over there that just, again, that are carrying that message into the patrol cars and fire trucks.
And keeping the shout-outs going, we've got J.D. Rottweiler, who's retiring.
My friend J.D., and hopefully he's listening to this morning, but I don't, it's retirement time for him now, so I don't know if he's even up. But either way, J.D. Rottweiler, a iconic name here in Cochise County and Cochise College. He's been at the helm for 15 years as their president. Prior to that, I think he came out of Iowa. But here's a guy that grew up Police Academy with us. Here's a guy that we have, and I'll hit on this in a minute, the simulators, driving simulators. I mean, this was a guy that I'd go to and say, listen, hey, let's try this. And he never said no. He was the guy that said, how do we get there? And let me tell you, him and I worked on numerous projects in the last 13 years I've been sheriff. And it's nice to have a leader that, even though we couldn't maybe all get there at the end of the day, just couldn't find a way to get there. He was always willing to listen, and he was always willing to try. And so he's retiring. We're going to miss the heck out of him. I know there's an event for him today. There's a dinner for him tomorrow night that Nikki and I will be at. Bottom line is this, that, JD, thank you so much for what you've done for this community, what you've done for Cochise College, and what you've done for aspiring students that want to move a life and opportunity. So, JD, good luck to you and your family. We're going to miss you both.
And those simulators are state-of-the-art, and I think it's the first kind that we've had of these anywhere, right?
Yeah, so he came to me. This was his brainchild. He came to me about a year ago and said, listen, look at this. Come down here. So he had an individual from Canada that has these state-of-the-art simulators. So I had some extra grant money between JD, myself, and the company out of Canada. We have 3 simulators. And if you see the wood on the front of downtown Cochise College on El Camino Real, the front's wooded up, that's to get those cars. So we donated 3 old sheriff's cars. They took them to Canada. They outfitted them as part of the driving program. And so you just got to see it to understand it. But long story short, is you get in these patrol cars that have all been refurbished, and you're inside a driving simulator that moves up and down, sideways. I mean, it's got the sound. It's got dirt that goes on your window. I mean, it's so realistic. They mapped out Cochise County. And this is because of all the pursuits and just what we do every day. So the driving experiences for law enforcement in this county has now something nowhere else in the country has it. I mean, this is the coolest, the state-of-the-art stuff that's in our backyard that we're looking forward to just put that in action and help our drivers, our law enforcement drivers, reduce liability. It's really what it's all about, and very reasonable. I mean, very reasonable to get this in there. So we're excited. You're going to see more on that. But that was another check the box for J.D. Rottweiler and say, hey, let's do this, Sheriff. And we had to pull some strings on my end, too, but we did it together.
Well, let's talk about some community events that are going on. You were at Sunsites meeting last night.
Yeah, the great community of Sunsites, Arizona. And they had their annual community meeting, and it's always packed. Good people, very supportive, folks that have quality of life concerns, questions. I mean, they've always been embracing to me. I was over there until about 9 o'clock, about 8:30 last night. Talking to folks and presenting to them, and along with many others. But long story short, those meetings go so far because they get to ask questions. I get to talk to them, and like I said, very embracing. And so thanks to the community of Sunsites and for what they do. And I'll give you an example where that's so important. We had that kidnapping murder here about a month and a half ago. Sad situation where the guy went in the house, kidnapped the elderly female, then killed the husband. But we were looking for him all night. that night, the suspect. Long story short is we opened up the Sunside Community Center, and we called them at 1 in the morning. Hey, can we use this for a command post? Sure enough, they were down there, opening it up, and that was our command center, which helped us orchestrate that operation. So again, thank you to these communities that support us so much.
And Cars for Kids is coming up, and that's a way for the community to support other organizations as well.
It is. Cars for Kids put on the Fraternal Order of Police. This is our 13th year, and we put the money to 70% of the money goes to Boys and Girls Club for all the things they do over there, and then 30% goes back to the FOP, again, the Fraternal Order of Police, to help our outreach programs, which are scholarships and things like that for probably the majority of it all kids. And that's coming up April 5th, Cal Ranch, Hobby Lobby parking lot. Come on out. It's free to register. If you go to the site, you can put your car in there, but we have live auctions. And I want to give a shout out to 3 of our partners in this year, our big donors, Morris Automotive Group, Teddy Morris, and him and I met, the Berg, Tyler Johnston from Berg Enterprises, and last but not least is Right Way. Mike from Right Way and his team, all our partners this year. They've stepped up, and we have so many sponsors. Don't get me wrong. There's so many, from Hatfield's Funeral Home, Prestige Remodel, all the way through. We just have so many out there that are just stepping up and with us every year. So thank you. Come on out April 5th, and it's free to come in.
And also, you're headed to Tucson right after the show.
Yeah, I'm going to boogie out of here real quick because I got to go to Tucson to speak at 9 o'clock up there, and these are my days. They back up at home by 9, 10 o'clock at night, up at 5 in the morning and heading out, but it's what I love to do.
And then before you go, you've got to do your stop of the week this week, and it was somebody swerving pretty bad.
Yeah, I was coming home, and it was like 10 o'clock at night, 10:30 at night, and that's a prime time for drinking and driving. Let's just be real. So I get a car that pulls out one of the side streets in front of me on Buffalo Soldier Trail, and I live south of town here, and the car pulls in front of me. It's the only car. We're only 2 cars on the road, and the car goes out of the lane 3 times, goes off into the shoulder breakdown area. Well, to me, it's like, well, here we go. So I hit the lights, car pulls over, and I walk up, and the female driver's like, why are you stopping me? I said, ma'am, I'm stopping you because you can't stay in the lane. You went off the road 3 times. Oh, I know, but there's something in my eye I can't see. Folks, I love people. I really do. But something like that happens. They become distracted. You can't see, or you're blinded for whatever reason. Pull over, stop, take care of your needs, whether it's something in your eye, whatever. And you just want to embrace people. Say, really? But it's either way. So I said, listen, make sure you get that taken care of if you pull back out. I'm looking for impairment or a medical condition. In this case, I guess something in the eye. I said, but we want to keep you safe. I know I should just pull over. So yeah, just a reminder. I mean, it seems simple while you're addressing your personal needs, but you hate to hit somebody. That's all I can say. So just be safe out there.
Well, Sheriff Mark Daniels, we thank you for coming and talking to us today.
Great. Thank you, Carol. Enjoy your day off, and we'll talk to you next week.
First Watch on KWCD Country is brought to you by Sulphur Springs Valley Electric Cooperative.
Let's go back to First Watch on KWCD.
And it's brought to you by Sulphur Springs Valley Electric Cooperative. I'm Grady Butler, and in the studio we have our next guest. It's Dan Deshawn, Director of Emergency Management for Cochise County. Good morning.
Good morning, Grady. Thank you for having me.
We also have Fire Chief Mark Savage in the studio as well. Good morning.
Good morning, Grady.
Well, let's start with you, Dan. So let's talk about, we've heard Ready, Set, Go so many times that some people still may not understand what Ready, Set, Go stands for, what it means, how it works. So let's kind of go over what that program is.
Yes. So across the state, we've standardized the Ready, Set, Go program, and it's about how to do evacuations in a large emergency, whether that be a wildfire more commonly, or even a hazmat incident, or some type of flooding. It's really for any hazard, but predominantly what we see down here is the wildfires. So just think it's how we do evacuations, and it's standardized across the state. So no matter where you're at in Arizona, you're going to hear that same Ready, Set, Go language. And I can break that down as well.
Let's do that.
So we've all heard the phrase Ready, Set, Go as a kid and growing up. So ready, it just means prepare now. I like to say we should always be ready. We do things like we sign up for emergency alerts through our county, which we'll get into here in a moment. We follow some pages like the Sheriff's Office page on social media, so if something does happen, you know where to get the most accurate information. And we take steps to prepare. I like to say, we have a plan for what we're going to do with our people, our pets, our prescriptions, papers, personal needs, so that if you do have to evacuate, you're not caught off guard. You know what you're going to do, and possibly you know where you're going to go.
So ready is basically right now. Everybody should be doing all of these right now and always be ready.
Yes, we should always all be ready.
I love it.
Next, so we go ready, set. This means there is a hazard in that area, and for example, if it's a wildfire, we're working with the wildfire incident commanders. We don't know which direction it's going to go or how severe it's going to be, but we know there's a chance it could go into a specific canyon or neighborhood. So we'll say, well, let's put this area on set so these folks aren't caught off guard, and we give them as much notice in advance. In that case, maybe I would load up my car or cancel my evening plans, make sure I know where the kids and the pets are so that we have to evacuate. We can do it quickly and we're not scrambling putting things together. So last is go. So it's time to go. That wildfire is coming. The wildfire incident commander says, yeah, it's coming. We need to be safe and clear out this neighborhood. So that's when you actually need to evacuate. And again, if we were in set status before, your car's already loaded, you're not working on other projects, you know where everybody's at, and you can just get in the car and go. In that case, the emergency management department will be working with the American Red Cross to open a shelter, and we'll get that information out to our social media pages like the sheriff's office and the county page. So that's why it's important to sign up for those in advance, follow those pages, so when it is time to evacuate, you can just grab your phone and say, oh, there's a shelter here or there, and we have a plan.
So we've talked about ready, set, go, and all the steps you need to be in there, but how do we find this information? You mentioned social media, you mentioned those other ways, but there's also things you can sign up for to get alerts.
Yes. So here in the Emergency Management Department, we can send several types of alerts. We do have those, the emergency alert system, which, Grady, you're familiar, on the radio. It breaks in with that noise and issues the alert.
Yep.
It also gives you the scrolling banner on television. We would rarely use those, only for your most terrible type of disaster, but we do have that ability. The more common we're going to see is the wireless emergency alerts, which is to your cell phones. It's the Amber Alert, the Silver Alert you see all the time. So we can send those here locally, and we would send those for if you're in that set or go status. Additionally, we also have access to send, you call it reverse 911 or the emergency telephone network. We can dial your landline with a message. So your phone will ring and you'll pick it up and it'll say, hey, there's an evacuation, go in this area. So we have those different types of alerts that we can send, but I always advise signing up for alerts in advance. And the question is, well, if you can get my landline and my cell phone, well, what's the point? Why do I have to sign up in advance? And the benefit is there's two. One is you can tie your address to your cell phone number. So if you're out in town shopping and there's an evacuation in your neighborhood, you're not going to get that alert because your cell phone isn't in the evacuation area. It only works if you're in that area. It's geo-targeted. But if you sign up in advance, you can tie your address to your phone. Second, if you have someone, a loved one you're caring for, or they may need a little extra help evacuating, you can tie your cell phone to their address. So, I tie my cell phone to my grandparents. So it gives you a little extra advance warning, and it covers a few more bases in case you're not in that actual area.
Okay, well then let's talk about how to sign up for those alerts.
Yes. So the website is cochise.myfreealerts.com. That's cochise.myfreealerts.com. And we're also sharing on the social media page the flyer, and there's a QR code as well.
Okay, and so when they go there, is this like an easy setup, and is it like a self-explanatory walkthrough?
Yes, you can select your language. So all our alerts are in English and Spanish, but if you'd like it in another language, we have a dozen more languages you can pick, and you just select the type of alerts you'd like. If you want more specific weather alerts, the system's tied into the National Weather Service, and you just enter your address, cell phone, a landline, an email address if you like. It's pretty simple, I think.
And you can choose what kind of alerts you get as well.
Yes, so you can add extra alerts from the Weather Service in case you want weather alerts all over the county or specific type of weather hazards. But we use it primarily to tie that address to the phone number.
Okay, and we're going to give out that web address in just one more time in a minute. But first, I want to do a little bit of some tech stuff. Kind of tell us how, I mean, not specifically how, but you can target an area so not everybody's getting all of that.
I can talk to that a little bit,
Okay.
Because a lot of times we'll reach out to Dan when we do have either a pre-evacuation set status or evacuation status where we ask people to go. It's one of the best things that people can do for us to create a safer work environment during a fairly chaotic wildfire. But basically in the past, I can call Dan and say, hey, look, we've got a neighborhood that's downrange of this fire, downwind, the fire's moving quickly and they're at risk. I can basically define the area either by streets, just by directions, by neighborhood, and say, hey, I'd like to let all of the people know in that area that we want them to evacuate, please. He can go back in, set up a polygon on the computer, and it'll message all of the people that are in that space.
And that's Chief Savage is who's talking there. But that's the kind of stuff that I think is neat, that we can be very specific on who gets the alerts.
Yes. So when we geo-target, it's actually pretty neat when we talk about how smart our phones are, where it's not necessarily based on where the towers are at. We can draw a box, a polygon, and the bleed over is, our accuracy is within 100 feet. And I was watching a webinar through FEMA, and they're saying that the message goes to the cell phones within the area, and then your cell phone itself decides if it is in that box or not, and then if it's out, it doesn't give you the message, and if it's in, it gives you the message.
That's pretty cool. See, I like the technology side of it as well. So give us the how do you sign up one more time?
The website is cochise.myfreealerts.com, and I know Carol and Grady, you guys are going to put this on the Sheriff's Facebook page as well.
Yes, and there's QR codes in there and everything. So yeah, please take advantage of that. Sign up; it is very important. Now we're going to move over to Fry Fire Chief Mark Savage to talk a little bit about some fire safety. Since now we know how to get ready, set, go. How can we actually prepare ourselves at our own homes?
There are a lot of things we can do, Grady. A couple of big resources are firewise.org and ibshs.org. Those are two different programs. One's from the Insurance Institute for Business and Home Safety. The other one is through the National Fire Protection Association. But both of those sites provide some pretty good resources for what people can do now that we're in just about a perpetual wildfire season to protect their homes from fires.
Give us some examples.
Well, both of those break the home ignition zone down into three areas. The area that's immediately adjacent to your home, between 0 and 5 feet. I mean, basically, if you can have one hand on the house and reach it with the other hand, that's the immediate area. We want anything that's flammable out of that space. Mulch, any dry leaves, dry grass, any wood products, trash cans, anything, lawn furniture, anything that can burn, we want separated at least 5 feet away from the house. That's the biggest thing, because it's not necessarily the flaming front on a wildfire that is going to cause the house to burn. It's ember traps, so leaf litter, other stuff that's right up next to the house that can catch an ember and smolder and kind of ultimately lead to the house burning. Those are our biggest risks. So first step is looking at that 0 to 5 foot range, getting anything that's flammable out of that space. The next zone is the intermediate zone, and that's probably from 5 to 30 feet, right? And what we look at there is, again, trying to remove some of the fuels, and that's brush, trees, I mean, if stuff's overhanging the roof, whatever, and then ultimately pushing that back out to 100 or 150 feet, depending on where the home is at, what the fuel load, and by fuel load I mean what the brush and grass and trees are like around the home, and trying to thin that out, right? We've got a seasonal fuels crew that's doing some incredible work. It's grant funded through Arizona Department of Forestry and Fire Management, and they're helping us kind of break up that fuel continuity both vertically and horizontally, so that when a fire comes through, because we know it's gonna burn the grass, but we kind of take out the ladder fuels, the lower lower brush that would allow that fire to get from the grass up into a tree canopy, and then we also try to break up those tree canopies so that it's more fire adapted, and basically trying to turn the existing current fuel model back to the way it looked 100 years ago, where it was regularly exposed to kind of lower intensity fires and wouldn't have the same kind of catastrophic fire behavior that we'd have today.
And this is, you're basically, in my mind, you're talking about the rural Arizona, but this applies to in cities as well.
It applies everywhere. I mean, it's
Okay.
everybody's seen in the recent fires in California. It's not just the interface
That's
areas
true,
that are subject to burn, right? And the guidelines for interface fires, whether it's removing the fuels around the home, or even doing some home hardening things like adding metal roof, non-flammable siding, getting wood decks away, using metal and concrete stairs instead of wood. All of the stuff that applies in interface also applies in the cities.
And then also inside your home, there's ways to be safe as well for fire.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, so the more insulation, the better. And I'm talking about like windows, like single pane windows have a little bit, they transmit more heat through than a triple pane or higher insulated window. But yeah, things like moving flammables away from windows, closing blinds, other stuff to kind of keep that heat on the outside.
And smoke detectors.
Smoke detectors, 100%.
Yeah.
Smoke detectors, if you've got any kind of gas appliances, then carbon monoxide detectors. But yeah, and signing up for alerts, right? I mean, early warning means early action. So the readier people are for action, the better.
All right, well, let's turn to a little different subject, and that's burn permits. You guys got some new rules coming up?
We did. We revised our burn permit program pretty heavily this year, trying to make it easier for people to get a burn permit, to review the guidelines, and to safely burn, right? Every year, I promise, out of the thousands of controlled burns that people do safely, we have a dozen that get out of control and either burn off their property or damage property or burn bigger stuff. So this year, people just have to go to our website. We've got a burn permit tab on that website. They have to fill out an application. It's got all their personal information, where their address is, what they're going to burn. It runs through our list of safety guidelines. When they complete that application, it's going to send them an email. It's going to send us an email. They're not going to get a burn permit number anymore. They're not going to have to bring anything in or drop anything off or sign anything. We're taking it all electronically through our website. Once they get that email, it's got a date on it. And those burn permits are good during a calendar year. So when they have that burn permit, they'll go back onto our website to log during the day, assuming that we're allowing burning that day. They can enter their information, where they're at, what they're going to burn, how long they're going to burn, so that we have some situational awareness about what's going on in our area. Obviously, we try to limit the risk there. We parallel our burns usually with some of the red flag conditions. If there's going to be a high wind event, we ask people not to burn. And then during our peak fire season, probably May through June, we ban open burning, usually in conjunction with the Forest Service, just so we don't have any additional ignition sources out there that can result in, again, catastrophic fires. But yeah, the permit is just an online application. They're not going to get a number. They don't have to come in. They don't have to do anything. Once they get that email serves as their permit during the calendar year. And then we ask that they log when they're burning, if we're allowing burning on any given day.
All right, so give us the web address for the permit.
www.fryfiredistrictaz.gov.
Easy enough. And then also you threw out some other websites for protection. Give us those again.
The other ones are ibhs.org, which is the Insurance Institute for Business and Home Safety. They've got a lot of great information on things that people can do in and around their home, as well as to their home, to make it more fire resistant and more fire hardened. The other one is firewise.org, which is through the NFPA. We've got a couple Firewise communities in the county. Fort Huachuca U.S. Army Garrison is a huge one. Ramsey Canyon, and then Old Bisbee are a couple of different Firewise communities. The bottom line is that the guidelines and the principles apply in the Firewise community or not, in the rural areas or not.
And speaking of areas, kind of go over what, like your Fry Fire. Tell us what Fry Fire is different from Sierra Vista Fire, although it may seem similar, but there are differences.
We do a lot of the same exact stuff and have amazing automatic aid agreements with Sierra Vista, Whetstone, Palominas, Coronado National Forest, Fort Huachuca, you name it. It's really just a function of jurisdiction, right? The same job has to get done whether you're in the city or out of the city. If you get hurt or you have a fire, you call 911, you want somebody to come and respond to do that. So yes, we work with all of those incredible partners and do a lot of the same job together. Even in some of the more remote areas, rural areas that don't have fire district protection, there's still a backup. That backup would be Arizona State Department of Forestry and Fire Management. They've got great fire protection folks that come out as well. A lot of times they'll call some of their local cooperators, fire districts, Coronado Forest, other partners that may have resources there a little bit sooner. But again, we all work together, one giant team.
Well, Dan Ducharme and Chief Savage, we thank you for coming and talking to us today and catching us up on safety.
Thank you. Thank you, Grady.
First Watch on KWCD Country is brought to you by Sulphur Springs Valley Electric Cooperative.
Giving you an inside look to your sheriff's office. Let's go back to First Watch on KWCD.
And it's brought to you by Sulphur Springs Valley Electric Cooperative. I'm Grady Butler, and in the studio now we've got Corporal Borkstaff for the Sierra Vista Police Department. Good morning.
Good morning.
So you've got something coming up, a shred-a-thon and a prescription take-back day.
Yeah, we've been doing this for 4 or 5 years now, and this year it's going to be held on March 1st at Veterans Memorial Park. It'll be from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. or until the shred truck is full.
Right.
And that has happened before. But it's going to be on the west side of Veterans Memorial Park. We'll have signs out so people know how to get into it. You'll line up, pull up, pop your trunk or whatever, and we have volunteers from the Citizens Police Academy Associates that will take your boxes of paper out, put them in the bins to be shredded. You do have to take the boxes back, though. we don't have a way of disposing of those. And we'll shred all your paper that you need to have shredded. And if you have any prescription medication that is expired, isn't used or anything like that, you can bring it here or bring it to us, and then we will safely dispose of that. Now, there are some stipulations on that. We can't take any ointments, any liquids, any inhalers, or any syringes. Basically just pills or capsules. If you want to leave them in the bottles, that's fine. If you want to take them out of the bottles and put them in a little baggie, that's great too. But we'll get rid of all of that stuff safely so it doesn't end up in a landfill or flush down the toilet or something like that.
And also away from little kids.
Absolutely.
This is kind of important to dispose of this stuff.
It is. And over the years, we've collected on one day. I think last year we were right about 83 or 84 pounds of prescription medication. And you think, well, that doesn't sound like much. But yeah, when you look at the little pill and we get 84 pounds of those, that's a lot. That's a lot of prescription medication.
And is there a cost associated with any of this?
Absolutely not. It is free. There is a 5-box limit on paper, though. But the Citizens Police Academy would happily select or get a donation if you're so inclined. It kind of helps pay for everything. But yeah, it's free and take advantage of it.
All right, give us the dates and times one more time.
All right, March 1st from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. at Veterans Memorial Park.
Well, Scott Borkstaff, we thank you for coming and talking to us today.
You bet. Have a safe day.
And I know your name is Scott Borkstaff. I just kind of slurred it a bit.
That's all right. It's early.
Thanks for coming and talking to us. First Watch on KWCD Country is brought to you by Sulphur Springs Valley Electric Cooperative.
Giving you an inside look to your sheriff's office. Let's go back to First Watch on KWCD.
And it's brought to you by Sulphur Springs Valley Electric Cooperative. I'm Grady Butler, and in the studio with me now is Tricia Smalley with the Benson Police Department. Good morning.
Good morning.
So Judge Bannon has an initiative from the Supreme Court to address juvenile violent offenders, and you are part of the team that's going to do that. But before we get to that, I'd like you to introduce yourself.
Well, I'm Officer Tricia Smalley. I'm with the Benson Police Department. I am assigned to the Benson High School as their school resource officer under a statewide grant through the Arizona Department of Education.
And what does a school resource officer do?
Well, I'm assigned to the school. Basically, safety and security of the student and staff is first and foremost. Also, with that, I also do a lot of law-related education based on the needs of what's going on at my particular school.
And are you on campus all of the time, or is this a side gig with the police department?
I am on campus all of the time from 7:30 in the morning till about 3:30 in the afternoon.
Well, let's talk about the initiative from the Supreme Court that Judge Bannett has enacted. It's to address juvenile violent offenders. What are we seeing here in Cochise County, and more specifically, what are we seeing at the Benson High School?
Well, through this initiative, I was selected to represent as far as a school resource officer. I can attest to what's going on in Benson primarily. A lot of our juvenile offenders here in Cochise County a lot of them are out of county juveniles, and those are the ones that are coming down here to smuggle humans and so on and so forth. We haven't had a whole lot of those issues at Benson High School per se. We've had a couple fights here and there, assaults, if you will. I'm lucky in the sense that in Benson, I think my biggest issue right now is the vaping and social media, but not a whole lot of violence.
So when these issues do come up and you're part of this initiative, how would you address these issues?
I don't deal with disciplinary stuff at the school at all. We let the schools handle that. But if I'm seeing like a rise in juvenile assaults or fights, then I will hold classes. I will go into the classroom and teach 6 cohort classes on assaults and disorderly conduct. Not only just how they are related to the law and the possible legal consequences that kids can face, but on the social emotional side and dealing with that as well.
So what are the next steps for this initiative?
For this initiative, we're kind of still in the infancy phases, so we just need to continue to meet with our group, our committee, to see what's going on, to compare notes, see what's going on at Sierra Vista Joyce Clark Middle School as opposed to Benson High School, and what can we do to collaborate and continue to reduce youth violence here in Cochise County.
And it sounds like a great networking opportunity as well. So we appreciate what you do as a student resource officer for Benson, and we thank you for coming and talking to us today.
Thank you.
First Watch on KWCD Country is brought to you by Sulphur Springs Valley Electric Cooperative.
You've been listening to First Watch, brought to you by Sulphur Springs Valley Electric Cooperative. Keep up to date. Follow the Cochise County Sheriff's Office on Facebook, and tune in next Friday, 7 a.m. for First Watch right here on KWCD.